Hello, RWorld, and welcome back to another episode of RWorld Talk. We have a very special treat for you guys today. We are here with Mr. Tim Weisheyer. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good. Thanks for having me here.
I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah.
You've been I've known you for quite some time, and you've been a great mentor to me.
Oh, thank you. That's kind.
I'm being serious. You're a good friend, all around good dude, and I can't wait for our RWorld members that don't already know about you to find out a little bit more about the man, the myth, the legend. So why don't we start with?
Listen, you say that, but how many episodes have you done? I'm finally here. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
Touche. No, come on, bring it.
So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? Who's Tim?
Yeah. So most people think I'm from Florida, by the way. Like everyone thinks I'm born and raised Osceola County, Central Florida. Truth is, I was really born on Long Island, New York.
Okay.
My parents moved the family down to Florida when I was 11 years old. And so I know more Florida than I do New York, but I do still have these New York ties and connections, which certainly informs and impresses upon me in some ways or another. But so grew up in Central Florida. That's where home really is for me. Still live in Lake Nona. Always knew I was going to be in real estate, which is a whole other story we can talk about another time.
Okay.
But there's a story going back literally all the way to the time I was 7 years old that the first impression of real estate was kind of implanted upon me, and I decided that was something that really intrigued me. So yeah, that said, I have at 7.
Okay.
7 and 11 are two very distinguishing marks for me with this idea of going into real estate. I always knew it was going to be in business. There's no secret on that. But real estate, there's two very unique stories I'll share with you at some point about that. But yeah, I have 2 daughters, one in Orlando, one in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they are the center of my world. So yeah.
Yeah, I could tell from any of your social media postings that family is absolutely huge to you.
Yeah, including my parents. I mean, as you know, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, even last night, I hosted my parents at the house for dinner, went on a great walk with my mom, just real conversations. I come from a very kind, loving, generous, and very community-oriented family.
Okay.
My father served in the Air Force and really impressed upon us the idea of loving our country, serving others, and sacrificing for a greater good. My mom spent 32 years in education, and so that also obviously informed myself and my 3 siblings about the idea of making sure that we're not just doing well for ourselves, but we're serving and leading others. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. And all that stuff shows. It really comes out of you every time you take a stage. Anytime I hear you speak, there's a lot of you're a very genuine person, and it really comes across to anybody who's in the room listening to you. And I think it's an amazing quality to have, because people dial right in and want to know exactly what it is that you have to say, because they can trust you right from the moment that they meet you.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. That's obviously important to me. I always tell people a big thing for me is I've been honored to have all these roles and responsibilities in my adult life in particular. But the big thing for me is always, am I creating real impact? Am I loving, serving, and honoring people in a way that's going to help them, not just to elevate myself? And so thank you for saying that. It means a lot to me.
Well, I can attest certainly to the impact that you have on a lot of people. We had our leadership orientation for President Searle at the end of 2023. That was, they were trying to usher me out as quickly as they possibly
could. As quick as possible. Yeah. Please let 23 end. Yeah.
So you spoke at our annual leadership training event, and our leaders absolutely loved the message that you had given, and the connections that you were making in that room, just speaking from the heart to everybody that was there, was incredible. What is it about RWorld? You came down here, you delivered with such passion, you really inspired so many of us, so many of our future leaders that were in that room. But what do you think that it is that makes RWorld unique? Because you seem to have a connection with a lot of our people.
Yeah, no, absolutely nothing. You guys are not special, I promise you. No, the truth is, and I think I said it this day, if not that day, I said it another day. You guys are really home for me in a lot of ways, and you're a great example of that. I love our friendship. I love I love the way we challenge one another in an intellectual way, and I think that's true really across the board with your entire association. I'm truly blessed to have great relationships across the state and across the country within the Realtor family. But then there are certain people and certain relationships that you just build, and your association has always been very loving and very kind and very accepting and very supportive of me. And at the same time, too, to your credit, willing to challenge and willing to ask the hard questions. So for me, when I was honored to be able to come and speak to you guys, it was a kind of a no-brainer, yes. And then it was also like, how can I truly invest in you guys? I really believe, to give you an example, I just came back from the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, and I was speaking to an association there on strategic planning. And as I get to travel the nation and talk to whether it's chambers or realtors or business leaders or otherwise, there are just certain organizations that you build a certain affinity for. And you guys are certainly one of those associations for me. So for me, it almost feels like I'm back home. I've developed really good friendships, really good relationships, a lot of trust and a lot of respect with you and other leaders in your organization. And so for me to be able to just invest a little bit back it's a blessing for me.
That's amazing to hear. We certainly welcome you in with open arms. That's for sure. You are currently president-elect of the greatest real estate association in the world.
Yeah, baby.
Better known as Florida Realtors.
Yeah.
So 2025, you're in line to become our president. What is one significant way that you plan on ushering in change on the state level? Is there any tea that you could spill?
Yeah. So I'll say this. First, it's an honor to be able to serve as president-elect and ultimately president of our association. This is not something I ever really desired or wanted or pursued.
Isn't it funny how this stuff happens?
It does, but I also believe, Chris, I believe the best leaders are the leaders that don't need the position or title and say, I want to just do good work. And so for me, in every arena that I've served in, it's always been, I just want to lead and serve in a way that's going to create a bigger impact. You'll like this next statement. You know that Chuck and I have built a good friendship during the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say this, and I say Chuck because he's immediately after me, but it could be George, it could be Jeff, it could be anybody. One of my biggest goals is to make Chuck or George or Jeff a better president than I'll ever be. I mean, that's number one. I believe that real leadership is really about not yourself and not the prestige that comes with office and position, which is, that's great and it's an honor, but it's really about how do you build an impact or a process or a runway for people to really be successful. So number one, it's how do I build capacity within our team? I'm heavily invested in Chuck and George and Jeff and Gia as well, but certainly I'm looking at the 2025 and beyond team and how do I speak into them? How do I love them? How do I support them? How do I pull the best out of them? But let me kind of make that as a little bit of a segue. For me, I do all this leadership development training in all different organizations and government, whatever. I think the biggest thing for me when you ask, how do I plan to kind of usher in change? I believe that our society lives in a time where leadership is void and leadership is needed. And so for me, it's really about how do I do the best I can in my limited abilities to speak into and love and serve and lead our association into a place to where it's bigger and it's better than I'll ever be able to make it. And I will be this very small mark on it. The truth of it is in 2025, you guys will all be like, oh, Tim Weisheyer, that's great. And in 2026, you'll be like, who's Tim Weisheyer? I don't even remember this guy anymore. And for me, that's perfectly fine. Right. Like perfectly fine. Because I always believe it should be about the impact and not the position. And so I think you're going to see a lot of the team coming together and the team supporting one another. I think you're going to see a lot of me trying to celebrate and elevate those that I have the honor of serving with, that you guys as members elected to be part of the team. And then you're going to see this hyper focus on we are here to make sure that our members are productive and profitable. And all the other things we do are great and they're wonderful and they're beautiful. But at the end of the day, we've got to make sure we're doing the best we can to serve and protect our members and private property rights and the consumers that we serve. And so you're going to see a very laser focus from me on those key items over the next year and a half.
That's great to hear. And I think one of the coolest things that you just touched on was making your leadership team that's coming up behind you better than you ever could have been. And it's something that I think about in the journey that I'm on now, just finishing up a year as president and looking back at things that I would have done differently, things that I could have changed, things that I wish somebody would have told me while I was on that journey, and taking things like that and giving them to David and Jonathan and the leaders that are now coming up that path behind me. If they can make my life easier as a realtor member by helping me become more productive, more profitable. And there was any sort of a mark that I could have left on them that they're now taking into their future in order to, like you said, be way better than I ever was. Who does that benefit?
Yeah.
It benefits me. It benefits everybody.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic thought process to take yourself out of the equation and say, how can I make this better for the future? Not better.
Yeah. So often people, so I always teach on this idea of positional leadership and real leadership. Positional leadership says I'm the president of RWorld for 2022 or 23, excuse me, and I'm amazing. Well, that's not real leadership. That's just a position and a title and a point in time. Real leadership is this idea of I'm a steward of this for this time and season, and how do I make sure I invest in the people that are going to follow me and the organization that's created or supported or enabled me in a way that's going to leave a mark that goes far beyond. And the biggest thing I truly believe about leadership is this idea of it can't be about you. And I think for what it's worth, not that you need credit from me, but I think you led that way. You were an impactful, a gracious, a focused leader. And this is a great example of it. The fact that you guys launched this and so many other things in your year of presidency, that's real leadership. And I just hope that I can fulfill that and try to support those that'll be following me and leave the organization a far better place than I inherited it. And kudos to those that gave it to me, if you will, in that way.
Right.
That really did all the work for 100 years to get us to this point. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not my idea. This was previous leaders before me. I think it started with Jared, moved into Karen's year. Carlos it never came off the ground, but I just happened to be the lucky one that ended up having this take off. So that way we had another way in order to reach those members. But this was all past leaders' initiatives that got us to this place that we're in today.
So that's the key point. You just said it, is the idea. I say this all the time to the Florida team is, I do not care what year anything happens in.
Right.
I just care that it happens if it's the right thing to be done. And I don't care about being right. I care about doing right. And when you take those two mindsets and you live them out in your quote unquote leadership journey, that's where you create real impact, where people go, look, Kresman gets to do RWorld Talk. That's great. Doesn't matter where it came from. The fact of it is, this was a meaningful opportunity to speak into the lives of not just your members, but the general real estate market and the community you guys serve.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're the one sitting here and nobody's ego's hurt by that, that's a beautiful thing.
Yep. And people across the country are now reaping the benefits of having something like this that they can tune into and find out how to be a better leader. Or
so you're national. That's what you're telling me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, baby. Got it. Worldwide.
Yeah, we're gonna go into some deep dives into business. But you had touched on some things. Being a 7-year-old, being an 11-year-old. Are those stories that you want to share?
Yeah, I'll give the short version of them.
Okay.
The short version, 11-year-old, I was born on Long Island, New York. My next door neighbor, I come from a very working class family. My dad worked was United States Air Force, worked for UPS. My mom stayed at home when we were little and then ultimately went into education.
Okay.
So I was 7 years old. My next door neighbor on Long Island owned about 200 rental properties across Long Island. I didn't know what that meant. But he always brought home all these really cool things: soccer balls, basketballs, baseball bats, mitts, gloves, didn't matter, whatever. Even like ping pong games and you name it, he brought home stuff. And I said to my dad one day, I said, where does Mr. Pace get all these things? How does he have all this? And he said, well, he owns properties across the state. I didn't know what the state meant at that time. I was 7 years old. And he said people rent them from him. And then when they leave things, if there's value, he takes them and he just gives them to the neighborhood's kids. And I was like, wait a second. So you mean to tell me this guy owns real estate? And I didn't understand the word real estate at the time. I'm 7 years old, right? I said, but he owns homes. He rents them out. Other people pay him to use his home, and then they leave really cool things, and I get them. So that was the first story. And my dad was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Real estate equals new baseball bats.
Exactly. Yeah. My first glove, right? So that was the first thing, and it that just really resonated with me. And then as I said, I come from a very, very traditional American working class family. And so my parents bought the house in the early 1970s. They moved us down to Florida in the late 1980s. And I was 11 years old when they moved us down to the Orlando area, Kissimmee. And They sold the house up there. They bought it. I'm making the numbers up, but I'm going to be very close on them. They bought the house for like $34,500. They sold it for like $285,000, whatever number of years later.
Yep.
And my dad, I asked the right questions, but my dad was honest enough to share the right answers. And he said, well, this is what we did. And he told me that story. And I said, wait a second. So you bought the house, you lived in the house, we lived in the house, we had all this great childhood. And then you sold it for so much more money. You came here, you bought an even bigger house, bought 2 new cars, started a business, and you put money in the bank. And I'm 11 years old. And that was, to me, like, I remember the story distinctly, to where I was like, wait a second. Real estate is this really cool thing, really powerful thing.
Right.
So if you asked anyone from when I was a little kid, they would have always said, Tim's going to end up in business. That was never a question. I just didn't know it was going to be the real estate side. And so those 2 things really marked on me this very significant, I guess, truth about the power of real estate and home ownership. And so from that age on, I was a kid, I was a punk, I was doing what most kids do. I was playing soccer and surfing and doing all the things I was doing. But that was always in the back of my mind. And so as I started living out this idea of going into business, I kept being pulled to this idea of like, what about the real estate business? What does that look like? And so I was very young, got my real estate license, and here we are.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I think my family had moved down to Port Charlotte, Florida from Buffalo, New York, like 1989, 1990, right around the same time.
Yeah.
And the first house that my mom bought was $34,000.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on Alton Road in Port Charlotte. I lived right across the street from Port Charlotte Junior High.
I was Ackerson Boulevard in Long Island, New York. So here we are.
That's fantastic. Yeah. My grandfather always said I was either going to be a realtor or a sportscaster, and now I'm a realtor with a podcast. So kind of like fate just happened.
You are it. Yeah.
So real estate's only one avenue of how you spend your professional career. I know that you do developing as well. You also served on school board.
Yeah.
Orlando Aviation Board or Aviation Authority.
Yep.
Why is community important to you? What is it about the school board and aviation board and serving on those things? And why do you think we should see other realtors stepping into roles like that and being involved in the community?
Yeah, so I mean, first, let me give credit where credit's due. My parents really instilled in all of us the idea of serving others and serving our community. My dad became president of the Youth Sports League and served all the kids in the community. My mom was involved in education. You heard that story. So I think, in truth, a lot of that's kind of ingrained. My father, my whole family was military. I thought I was going to be military. And so the idea of serving others and recognizing your life is not about you. It's about the difference you make in other people's lives. In truth, I think I have an advantage because that was instilled in me from a very young age. The other thing is for me, I think I've always recognized the idea of like, if I'm benefited with a certain opportunity or talent or experience, and it's great to enjoy it, but it's better to give it. 100%. And so the school board was an interesting one. I had been asked for probably 10 years to serve on the school board, and I kept saying no. And my idea was like, I don't need the position. I don't need the title. Like, let somebody else do it. I'll help from the background. And then in truth, I saw this opportunity to step in and lead in that arena, and was able to take what was ultimately a very dysfunctional board to, in truth, and I don't mean this from a selfish way, but really the highest functioning board in the state. And I think that's evidenced in the fact that I became president of the State School Board Association. I mean, leading 3 million students in the state. And so you don't get to that position if you don't create real transformation. But that for me was really about, I grew up in this community invested in me. There was a time, a space, and need, and I had a certain talent and opportunity. And so will I step in and will I do it? And it meant myself and my family stepping into the political arena, which is not always exciting. And it meant us sitting on the couch and having real conversations and talking and praying and considering what is the right answer. But we felt like it was the right thing to do for the community, for us as a family, and for the impact that we can create. The Aviation Authority is interesting. The governor of Florida is the one who ultimately appointed me there, and I'm grateful for that. But when you take what I do in real estate and consulting, you take the school board role, which seems like, wait, that's an outlier. And then you take the airport and you go, wait a second, is this guy like an airport expert all of a sudden? What you really find is all those things, the common thread between all of them is really 2 things. It's organizational and governance and leadership, right? Those 3 things kind of tie together. They're like the 3 chords of one string, if you will, one rope. The second part is there's a real estate play in all of that. And so for me, the big part is, how do I serve and lead others and make real impact? I'm going to come and go, and people will forget me as quick as they find me, and I'm okay with that. But can I leave a mark on society, on life, and on people in a way that to where, when I'm gone, maybe my kids, my grandkids, or others can look back and go, wow, that's great. Our family got to invest in that for that betterment of our community, our country, whatever. The second part is that real estate piece is, from a school board standpoint, you're building real estate, you're buying real estate, you're selling real estate constantly.
And that's when you hope they don't forget you when you leave the school board.
Well, I hope they still make good decisions, and they are. The airport's the same. You think about an airport and you think about we're landing planes, we're bringing trains in and all those things, which is true, but we're also a major commercial real estate play. I mean, you think about every single concessionaire in the airport is really a commercial lease. And you think about 12,000 acres around the Orlando International Airport, and I serve as the chairman of the commission for the Orlando Executive Airport as well, which is really dealing with general aviation and corporate aviation and bringing jobs and opportunity and growth into the Orlando region.
All real estate related.
It is. It really is. So it's really leadership and real estate really come together. And for me, the real estate piece is important. I know we're realtors, but it's really more about leadership and impact. So for me, it's like wherever I have this opportunity to serve and lead in my community and the spaces I'm touching, I'm always going to be mindful to say, am I the right person? Do I have the right talents and skills to do it? Do I have the right training to do it? And if I don't, I want you to do it or whoever's best. And if I do, then I'm willing to step up.
Okay. So something that I know our members are always wanting to hear, and I think that I might be able to get some good answers out of you, but looking at what's happening with commercial real estate. So I know that you're focused up in the Orlando area, but you had just said that you had met with a client down here as well. So what do you see as the future plays with commercial real estate? I know that you develop your own commercial spaces. Bring out your crystal ball. What are we looking at for 2024 and beyond as far as commercial trends?
Okay, so all the listeners, get your pen out. Like, this is going to be good. No, I'm kidding. Here's what I tell you. So first of all, I think the biggest thing in real estate as a whole is we have to realize is that the residential and the commercial markets are tied together, and one follows the other, meaning you can't have a strong residential market without a strong commercial market. You can't have a strong commercial without a strong residential. And so we first have to realize that that is the reality. Then you have to look at what's really going on from land use, development, economic opportunity, and then utilization. And so, yes, we own a commercial brokerage and a development company in the greater Orlando area. We're really fortunate to be able to do the stuff we do. But that business continues to shift. So you say, okay, 24 and beyond, what do I say? Number one, there's still a shortage of housing in America. And so development is still going to be key. I have one of my business partners who's been heavily involved. He's an engineer, heavily involved on the side of identifying and utilizing and titling land for real estate development for residential use. There's still plenty of demand for that. And there are countless people moving into Florida right now. And so more growth in the residential side is key, but that doesn't happen without the commercial side, making sure that all those land use changes and everything happen. The second part is...
And also there's jobs for those people who are moving here.
Yeah, well, so then that goes to perfect. So that goes to the other side of it, which is you can do all the entitlements, you can get the land use in place, you can develop the communities, but then where are they going to work? What's the economic lift and the economic opportunity? So what's happening in office space is going to continue to shift. And I just left the Northeast. Literally, I flew in last night from New Jersey, New York, where I was talking with a lot of commercial developers there about what's happening in their market and the millions and millions and millions of square feet of office space that's going to be vacated, and what do they do with that? And so I think the office sector is one that's still incredibly important, but sub-markets really matter. And so what I would say is pay attention to what's happening in your particular market. The state of Florida has been really good about attracting jobs and opportunity. And so with that, there's going to be a demand and a need for office space. However, what does office space look like? It's very different today than it was 10 years ago for all of us. Then there's retail, and retail is an asset class to pay attention to because of what's happening with e-commerce. And so retail is still relevant. We still want to go see, touch, and feel the products that we're going to buy, but many of us buy a lot of things online now. And so you're going to see the retail market continue to shift with e-commerce and the emergence of that happening even more. The sectors that I would say pay very close attention to is going to be industrial, light industrial, flex space.
Okay.
We're developing a lot of that in Central Florida right now. We think we don't think, it is just a hot market, and we think it's a smart play. And so we're doing a lot of that, a lot of entitlement work, a lot of development work around that. And then understand that every one of these asset classes, where you're dealing with single family, multifamily, townhomes, where you deal with office, retail, or industrial, there's a need for all of them. There's a connection between every part of that market, meaning you can't have a strong one without another component existing. The biggest thing I'd say be aware of is the capital markets right now. Your small, your local, your regional banks are going to be struggling. That's where a lot of the debt exists right now. And so when you look at what's happening with office space and retail space and the fact that that debt is existing on the book of these small, local, and regional banks,
right,
pay attention. The bigger banks of the nation are a little bit better hedged around that than the local and regionals. So pay attention around that and look for opportunities that to reposition, repurpose real estate around the state to create greater value and greater opportunity.
Awesome. When you're thinking about that office space and the shifts that we've seen, I actually closed down one of my offices because people just didn't come back to it after the pandemic. We had a lot more people that changed the way that they did business or just weren't feeling comfortable going back into an office environment. And that's not just in real estate. We see that across the board with so many industries that a lot of people have moved to a hybrid model or full remote work or whatever the case may be. So do you see office space rebounding at any time, or is that something that maybe we should be looking at turning current office space into housing projects?
Yeah, I think the answer is both. First of all, the cost with transitioning commercial office space into residential is exorbitant, because what you're not thinking, not you, but people in general are not thinking about is that you have an office and you have, I'll make the number up, you have 10,000 square feet and, 2 bathrooms with 6 stalls each.
Right.
Now you go to residential and how many bathrooms do you need? And the retrofitting of that is very expensive. And
retrofitting all the plumbing.
Yeah, and the electrical and everything that goes along with that. But the answer is yes. You're going to see this continued shift of repurposing asset classes into what's the most relevant for today. So yes, that will be a part of it, but there's a major cost component. The other question you asked is, do I think there'll be a resurgence with office utilization? And the answer is quasi yes.
Quasi yes. Okay.
Here's why. Virtual connection is a real thing right now. And it was always going to be a real thing, and COVID just kind of put steroids on it.
Right.
So there are still going to be people that are working remote and doing things remotely. However, what I think this country will continue to experience is that the productivity of people since COVID has gone down.
Way down.
Way down. And so it's easy to say, I work at home and I get as much done at home as I do at the office. But the collaboration and communication and connection that exists within those relationships in your workspace is diminished. And having to schedule with somebody to get on a call or do a Zoom or whatever platform you're using is so much less efficient than saying like, hey, I'm going to walk across the hall, grab Chris real quick and have a 5-minute conversation.
Because an idea just popped into my head.
Exactly.
But now if you got to wait 2 hours to schedule a Zoom with the guy,
yeah,
maybe that.
Well, and there's 30 other things that may come up.
Sure.
So culture still matters. And remember, here's a thing that I preach on a lot, and I don't know that everyone agrees with, but I truly believe it's truth. Is we're still human. We still love interaction and connection and personal relationships. And so all the virtual stuff that we deal with creates a level of efficiency and expediency that's beneficial, but it also creates a disconnection that is unnatural.
Right.
And so what I believe will be true is that if this is where, the office space existed before and it came down to here, it's going to come here. I mean, it's not going to get all the way back because there are still some things that can be done virtually and remotely. And there are other things where it's like, no, we need the team back together. Yeah. Let me make this to make the point. In my companies, I don't demand for anybody to be in the office. But at the same time, almost everybody is always in the office, meaning I give them that flexibility to where if they need to deal with their child, their school, their preschool, braces, doctor, life, whatever, they can. But they also know that the greatest synergy that we create as a company or as companies in my case, and as teams happens when we're in community with one another. And so I think what's going to happen is you'll see this radical decline that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years in the utilization of office space. You'll see a repurposing from the real estate side, and you'll see that kind of hit a wall to where some people go, wait a second, I do need still some physical space, and there'll be a slight shift back to where people saying, let's bring our teams back together because human relationships still matter, and they're still meaningful, and they still make a difference.
I think that was incredibly important for everybody to hear. I wholeheartedly agree with you. That human connection and just being able, like you said, to just bounce yourself across the hall, talk to somebody in our world, in the real estate world. We've got listings that are about to come on the line that nobody knows about yet, and you could have a conversation with somebody about, hey, this is something that I should have signed by Friday. Do you have anybody looking? Sometimes you can create a deal before you even have to go that entire length, and really have the ability to bounce ideas off of people that not only are going to make you smarter, but they're going to help them maybe think about some things that they hadn't previously thought about.
Sure.
But that whole thing on Zoom, it's different. When you're sitting in a boardroom with people and you can look across the table, and sometimes there's not even a word that comes out of your mouth, not a wink, not a anything, and you could sit and have a little chuckle with somebody just because you could know what that other person's thinking. That stuff ceased when we started using Zoom for everything. You don't have those connections anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that people aren't willing to go above and beyond to help assist you with whatever it is that you're doing because they just don't have the connection that they would have had if you guys were working out of the office together.
Yeah. So if you'll allow me, I'll tell you a personal story. So, I'm this young guy. I'm barely 19 years old, get my real estate license. I go to a family brokerage in town that I knew. I used to surf with the son of the owner of the brokerage. And so I knew this company existed. They had like 80% market share in my market. So I knew they were smart brokers to work with, but I also had a personal connection. I show up at the brokerage. I talk to the broker, which is now the sister of my surfing buddy, who is the daughter and son of the actual broker who's selling the brokerage down to the daughter. So I walk in and I said, hey, I'm getting my real estate license. I know you guys are major players in our market. I want to place my license with you. And the lady, who's now one of my dear personal friends, a county commissioner in Central Florida, said, Tim, I'm opening another brokerage. I don't know if I really have time for you right now. And no lie, Chris, this is exactly what I said. I said, give me a desk, a phone, and an opportunity, and I'll figure the rest out. And this is a true story. And she said, well, okay, look. She said, there's an office with a desk in it. It's technically a storage room, but we can clean it out for you. And there is a phone in there, and I guess this is your opportunity. And I said, if you trust me with this, I'll do the best I can to honor it. So I share that story with you because here I am, this 19, almost 20-year-old kid with a real estate license. I'm joining this very successful brokerage in my community. And my office that she gave me happened to be right near the workroom and the copy room.
So you got to meet everybody.
Yes. And it was a small brokerage. I mean, you're talking like, 5 staff, 5, 6, 8 agents, whatever it was. But everyone was standing around the copy machine, the fax machine, the postage machine, all these things at that time. And while they were running their copies or doing whatever, they were having conversations. And here's a little guy in the office gleaning from them. And this one would say, oh, yeah, well, I'm working on this deal and so. And I go, what does that mean? How does that work, right?
Right.
And I would glean all this information just from being in proximity to people who were now, at this point, these people were 30 years older than me, and they had been 20 plus years in the business. And that value that I extracted as a young real estate professional by being in the physical space with people was tremendous. And I really believe it's part of what gave me an early edge in my career to be able to learn and understand, because I was always listening and trying to understand. So you eliminate that personal human interaction. I think you eliminate some of the learning opportunities that exist. And more importantly, on a human side, I think you eliminate the connection and the relationship. And let's not kid it. Like, people still love people, and people still need people. And so we are wired for that. And so I think there's a business benefit and there's a human benefit. And when you bring those two together, it creates a profitability benefit that's good for everybody in the equation.
And then beautiful things happen.
Yeah, amen.
And look at you now. You're getting paper. So where do you find your inspiration? Are there people that you follow that give you good charge?
Yeah, truth. I'm a person of faith. And so for me, obviously, my faith, my belief in creation and humanity and doing good work for others is honestly a key piece for me. That really is. The second part is I'm a constant student. And so I have books that I've had an Audible account, I think, since Audible was created, to be honest with you.
Really?
Like, I didn't even know it was in vogue, and I downloaded it and I started like ordering books, and I still have it. My library is huge.
Is that why you always have the one AirPod in? You're just like constantly listening?
No, that's just to make sure you're not talking to me. It just pretend. I'm not even really on the phone. No, Yeah, so I am listening to audiobooks a lot, and I kind of cross genres in that. I mean, I listen to a lot of faith-based, a lot of business, a lot of personal growth, a lot of like leadership type stuff, a lot of political stuff. Those are kind of the genres I tend to go the most through. A little bit of health and wellness as well in there, but that's key. I will be honest. I with the leadership stuff that I do, I teach on different things. I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey, old school. Simon Sinek and what he teaches on, I think, is really great. Start with why and leaders eat last and those type of things.
I hope you guys got your pens out.
Yeah, take notes, please, guys. Clay Scroggins has a really good book that talks about restraining your ambition and the idea of you don't need a position or a title to create impact. And don't try to get to the biggest seat. Just try to make the biggest difference where you are. And I think it's a great book. But I'm constantly downloading new books. I just had a dear friend of mine give me a book about, I'll get the title wrong because I haven't started yet, just got it last week, about like extravagant hospitality. And like, how do you make sure that in every single instance you're showing up in really big ways for people? And so, is there one particular author? No, there's a kind of convergence of things. But I will tell you, for me, I'm constantly learning. I woke up at 4:30 this morning. That's just how it happens. I just wake up. I woke up and immediately I either start reading, I start listening to a podcast, I do some type of meditation, or I'm watching some type of YouTube video that is some type of growth or learning of some sort. And so I think my message in that answer would be, don't stop learning and don't stop growing. None of us have it figured out. I certainly don't. And I'm trying to grow and learn and become a better person, a better leader, a better realtor, a better friend every day of my life. And so do the same.
Well, I always thought Christina Pappas was a fantastic leader. I think that you're a fantastic leader. Just spoke to Christina, and that was one of her key points, was always be learning. And she had let me know that she still has a mentor to this day.
Yeah.
You think other people looking up to people like you and people like her, like, these guys are great mentors, but then to know that you guys are constantly learning yourselves as well, not just being mentors for other people, but being mentored in one way or another, whether it be an audio book or whether it be somebody that you've got, on your roster that you can really consistently learn from and constantly be growing. And it's amazing to hear, first thing in the morning, you open up your eyes and you're already filling your head with all the good stuff. You're not sitting there scrolling through, social media, TikTok's garbage that's just polluting your mind, but stuff that's actually going to fill your mind with positivity that's going to take you to that next level each day.
Yeah. Well, and I think I may have told you this at some point, like even on my phone, like it doesn't ring, it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't light up. I have all notifications turned off because it will rob me of too much opportunity, whether it's with my daughters, whether it's with my family, whether it's with my community, my service, my friends, whatever. And it doesn't mean that I don't go on social. I do. I post on social. I respond on social, but I have timers that are set on it every single day. I don't let it control and consume my life. And, Natural Instinct, there's a great book, by the way. It's called The Molecule of More. And it talks about dopamine and what happens with dopamine within our brains. And I remember reading and listening to that book a number of years ago, and it really kind of affirming things I already knew, which is that human nature will take us down this road unless we build guardrails to make sure we don't go down the roads we don't want to go down. And so I try to make conscious choices every day. I'm sure I fail in it constantly, but I try to make conscious choices, say like, this will eat up time, but this time is the most valuable time, and how can I spend it in a way that's going to be fruitful and beneficial?
Wow. So all of our brokers that are listening right now are going, no, don't shut off your notifications.
I know. Sorry, guys. Love you. I promise I do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that you are a busy man and have to get back to work. So I'm going to open up the floor to you. If there's any last bits of information that you want to throw out there to the crowd, otherwise I'll get to my last question.
No, I mean, I don't know. I guess what I would say is this. Kudos to you. And kudos to RWorld. The fact that you guys are choosing to create these very real and organic and very personal conversations, and really it's done for the benefit of the members. I hope you guys really value what this association's doing for you. I really do. I'm a fan of yours, Chris. I think you have been a phenomenal leader for this association. I've appointed you to lead stuff at the state level because I believe in you as well. And I think what I would say universally, whether with your national audience that you have, all right, is follow and pay attention to what's happening here, because The spirit and the intent is that realtors do good work, and we are living every single day in the space of individuals and families and communities, and choosing to serve and love and honor them in a way that's going to help them with their most significant transaction, and they're probably many times their greatest lift financially in life. And so I think this podcast and this conversation that you have ongoing with guests is a really, really valuable thing, whether you're a Realtor member, an affiliate member, or you're a consumer that's just looking to understand how do I relate and connect with the real estate community in a very real way. So I think I would just say that, and I would say to all of our realtor friends, like, believe in what we're doing. You know, we fight every single day for private property rights in a way that people don't even know and understand. And we invest in not just our profession, but we invest in the financial well-being of our communities in a way that people don't understand. And so figure out how to communicate that value proposition, because I truly believe in my heart of hearts that we do the right thing, and we lead in the right way, and we make a real difference in the lives of others.
My goodness, drop the mic on that one. Okay. So, well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Incredible words of wisdom. Truly appreciate the conversation that we're having. And thank you for traveling so far. I know that last night you were in New York, and here you are now down here talking to me.
Bright line. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay, so last question. We ask this of all of our guests. South Florida in particular, but the state of Florida has many, many hidden gems. So tell us about your favorite, whether it be a beach, a hiking spot, a bar, restaurant, whatever it is.
Sure.
Tell us about a hidden Florida gem that you love that we can check.
So I'll go fast to this. First of all, go Seminoles, go Noles, right? So anything in Tallahassee, I'm going to be a fan of. Yes, it's our state capital, but it's truly the Florida State Seminoles. Big fan, love them. Secondly, I will say I do love Central Florida. I'm very blessed to live where I live. I sometimes forget, I think we all do, that the world comes to Central Florida.
Yep.
And being on the airport board helps, because you realize I have 57 million people that come through my airport every single year, and that's meaningful. And you go, wait a second, like, people are choosing to take their money, their well-being, their savings, and come from all over the world to come to the town that I live in every single day. And so I do not take that for granted. Mm-hmm. I will admit to you, where I live is a beautiful thing, because I can go 58 minutes into the east and I'm in Cocoa Beach, and I get to enjoy the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. I can go an hour and a half to the west and I get to go to Clearwater and all that, and that's great. But I'll bring it home. I'm in South Florida. And so I think you may know this, but I don't know if we've talked about it or not. My youngest daughter, I have two daughters, Christina and Courtney. They're beautiful, amazing human beings. I'm so blessed. Courtney went to school down here. And Courtney went to school in West Palm Beach. She went to Palm Beach Atlantic University.
Okay.
Of course, I wanted her to go to Florida State, and she did too. But ultimately, Palm Beach was the right choice for her, and we support that. And so Courtney's our little prodigy child. She got her AA degree before she graduated high school, and was 19 with a bachelor's degree, and all these fun stories. But I spent 2 years down in Palm Beach as often as I could. Pam and I both. Spending time with Courtney at, City Place, and, just hanging out and enjoying everything that exists here in South Florida. So for me, anytime I come back into Palm Beach, or West Palm Beach in particular, I'm really back in a place that was very meaningful for me, for my daughter, and for our family during that point in time. And I just have a tremendous amount of memories and fondness for it. And then I'm not being nice, I'm being honest, is you guys. Every time I come down here, I get to hang out with you guys. And I love you. I love Chuck. I love Jeff. I love Karen and Deanna, all these people that you guys have community with. And so there's home for me because of Courtney and that history with her going here. And now there's this new family for me as well. So, so all that's great. I will tell you that, Florida is a beautiful state, as you know, and it's diverse. You go to the Panhandle, it looks one way. You go to the West Coast, it's another. East Coast, another. Central or South, it doesn't matter. And so wherever you are in the state of Florida, we are just so blessed to live in, really, I believe, God's creation. So anywhere you go, it's going to be beautiful, from the springs to the ocean to the Gulf, you name it. So,
wow. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Our future governor.
Yeah. Let's stick with President Florida Realtors for now. Yeah.
You got a couple things going on here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being with us. Always appreciated. And the love is mutual.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. And we will see you right back here next time on RWorld Talk.